Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Inside Out. My name is Yvonne Mukondani. On the program today, we are looking into the current economic situation. We've seen an increase in the prices of basic goods and services. The exchange rate is not stable. Basic goods are missing from some of the country's supermarkets. Retailers are not accepting local currency as a form of payment. We shall not even talk about the family basket, how much a family of 6 requires to survive just in a single month. Let's look at the facilities in the country. Health insurers. Some of them have released statements to the effect that they will not be accepting payments in the local currency. What does this mean for us as a people? What is happening to our economy? This is the question that we want to try and address on Inside Out today. And to help us with the conversation is Happiness Zengeni, who is a business analyst. Happiness, thank you for joining us on Inside Out.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. We're also joined by Denford Mutashu from the Confederation of Retailers in Zimbabwe. Denford, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Is the question, Happiness. What is happening? The exchange rate is not stable. People are confused.
Yes, there is a lot of confusion, but the sources are there. They're quite predictable. What we've seen, I think, since the beginning of the year is rapid depreciation of the local currency when it's pegged against the US dollar or major currencies. So this has caused this rapid increase in prices. So basically, in a nutshell, that's it. And then we can then trace to see what is the source of that. Why is the local currency depreciating? Still, it's the same answer. The source of any liquidity in the economy is government. So there must have been something that they did in order to have excess liquidity on the market, be it money supply or be it bulk payments at the same time. But it's the same thing. Economics has got the answer. It's the same source. There is excess liquidity on the Zim dollar.
Okay, Denford.
Yeah, I think we have seen the market and value chains self-re-dollarizing at a much faster pace than we probably anticipated. And the lack of space for the local currency owing to a number of reasons also meant that the US dollar kept depreciating in value because we didn't have too many places that the US dollar could find itself usable. And the rapid growth of the shadow economy is also a significant factor because so far, if you go into most shops, the supply chain does not accept payments in the local currency, and they demand payment exclusively in the United States dollars. And in doing so, the retailer is faced with a quagmire of having to procure those goods in US dollars and sell them on to the consumer in the local currency, applying the legislated interbank exchange rate prevailing for that particular week, of course, plus a 10% discount. So that has seen a number of players failing to price for sustainability. And a number of manufacturers and suppliers have got an option. If they don't supply their goods to formal channels, they have got an option to sell the goods to the informal sector, which has rapidly been growing. So you may not find goods in formal channel shops, but those goods are abundantly available in the informal sector.
I will get into what you've said about goods being channeled to the informal sector, but you mentioned pricing for sustainability. And yes, we are in an economy where we use multi-currency. It is a multi-currency system. But I want to find out the legality behind retailers and some people who offer services charging in US dollars specifically. Is that as per the law? Is it allowed?
Well, we are in a dual currency system, and ordinarily one can offer goods for sale or services in exchange for either of the currencies. What has become very problematic is the situation where the majority of Zimbabweans are earning their salaries in the local currency. And, business and other economic agencies are offering their goods and services, be it these basic commodities, rentals, healthcare products, pharmaceutical products, etc., school fees. The majority of them are demanding payments.
But the
in
fact that
local
they're doing
currency.
that, does it make it legal?
It is actually not legal in the sense that goods must be offered for sale in both currencies. A consumer must access those goods in any of the currencies, depending on what the consumer is holding. But the economic situation now, where the provider of the service in a dollarized value chain is got to also replace the stocks, it becomes difficult. And hence, this is why some are actually, forward pricing. Some have also even gone to the extent of withdrawing POS machines. And, bear in mind also that during the course of the last 2-3 months, the Financial Intelligence Unit, an enforcement arm of the Reserve Bank, has been out on the market and has frozen quite a number of accounts for most businesses in the sector and its value chain. And when that happens, it even limits further the capacity for one to procure stocks. And it is now a process where we've got to engage with the FIU, engage with the business players to continue to price according to the law and comply with the law.
But Happiness, do you think this will work, engaging with the relevant authorities? Where are they now when these prices and services are being pegged specifically in US dollars?
So I think generally our government has been very reactive instead of being proactive on how they handle the situation. Yes, we can fine companies, we can withdraw licenses, we can punish them, but at the end of the day, you're punishing even the ordinary citizens. Because if you punish suppliers, if you punish retailers, they're going to withhold products. So we have to go back to the root of the problem. So all of these are effects of a problem that's already there in the economy, which is rapid depreciation of the local currency, be it because of behavioral economics or because of what they have done in terms of excess liquidity, like I said in the beginning. So this is what needs to be addressed before we even go to FIU.
I will come back to you later on because I need to find out from you. This is the second time that you've said it.
Yeah.
There's something that government did. What could government do to shoot itself in the foot, resulting in this current economic situation that we are in? So as you think about that, let's hear from Dr. Mavaza, who is in the UK, an economist whom we spoke to earlier on.
In short, now we say, chakatanga ndo chakachenjenza. This has happened before. Every time we go towards elections, we have a situation where prices go up. This is a very archaic campaign used by the opposition and their detractors. I know they'll come to you and say, no, the government has failed. They'll come to you and tell you that, no, we can't raise prices, we are just the opposition. No. The most captains of industries are captured by the opposition, or they're the ones capturing the opposition. Either way, there are people who do not want this government to survive, and they want to remove the government, and they want to make the removal appear as if it's a democratic one. So how do they do it? They use elections. So every election this has happened. And let me tell you what had happened. In other elections, the Zimbabwean people have been resolute in their decision to make sure that the legacy of our country, of our independence, cannot be tainted by being hungry for only one term, for only 1 month, or for only one day. We look at future ahead of our stomachs. What the government has learned and should implement now, there are 3 things. Number 1, punish those raising these prices. Punish those shops who are actually taking after their masters. Punish them. If it means removing their licenses, do that. Let me tell you, we cannot survive with those shops when they are holding us at ransom. We are the government. So the government must show its teeth, bite whoever is biting you, the only way you can show these people that are irritated is to bite them economically. They are fighting us economically. We fight back economically. We promote shops who are there to promote the lives of people of Zimbabwe. We promote industries who have got Zimbabwean lives at heart. Not these ones who wants to play with your life in order to change your choices in voting. When you vote, don't vote with your stomach. Don't look at what is in your pot. Look what will be in your pot tomorrow.
Mavaza, they are speaking to us from the UK. He seems to have taken the conversation a little political. He says the people were sabotaging the economy because it's election period. And he says the government should punish them because whatever it is they're doing is not good for the economy. Now, I want to ask, who is in charge of the economy? Is there any foreign force that is capable of sabotaging us so much that we suffer? Who is in charge of the economy?
So the economy, in its proper definition, works on forces of market and demand. Of demand and supply, sorry, not market and demand. It works on forces of demand and supply to a point where they're supposed to reach equilibrium, and that's how it works. So in this case of pricing or instability of exchange rate instability, again, it's the same forces of demand and supply. I do not know much about politics to be able to comment about political sabotage, but I can tell you what the economy works. If there is a lot of supply in Zim dollars, then obviously you're going to get inflation, you're going to get pricing instability. That's simple. There's no other way. If there is less supply, so we'll give an example. Right now, the cash rate, what people refer to as the bond rate, physical notes, is at 2,400. So against your swipe rate of 7,275, that shows that there's less supply of cash notes, which is just under 0.1% of the money supply in the economy. That rate is stable. It has not moved at all. It has moved by a small percentage, which is about 5% depreciation since last year. So those are the forces. There's less supply of cash Zimbabwe dollars, but there's more supply of RTGS Zimbabwe dollars. So
but
that is
earlier
what
on
happens.
you said it's a result of what government has done.
Yes.
What is it that they could
So
have done
you
to shoot
and I,
themselves on the
or
foot?
even Denford here, do not control money supply. We do not create money. The money can be created through banks, through the loans that they give. But according to the statistics that we have from the Reserve Bank, money loans are like from the first 5 months of the year are at 80 billion, which is not enough to move any rate, right? So there must be something. Either they're printing money electronically or they're making bulk payments. So the statistics, again, that have been provided by RBZ say that electronic payments by government are close to 800 billion, and that's a lot. So there's just money that's swimming in the economy, Zim dollars. So obviously to store value, you're not going to be stuck with Zim dollars at the moment when it's depreciating like that. To store value, the Zim dollar is chasing US dollars. So that's a lot simpler than what we would then say is political sabotage.
Okay. Denford, you represent the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers. Dr. Mavaza, there, whom we spoke to, says Zimbabwe's retailers have been captured. What is happening in the country now is a result of economic sabotage because the elections are around the corner.
Well, I think that's laughable. The retail and wholesale sector has been working very closely with the government. And in any case, I can tell you that as an association, we initiated the dialogue on pricing that is currently going on. After noticing that there were a lot of issues on the market, especially the pricing escalations, the pressure from inflation, the re-dollarization of the supply chain, and the noticeable shortages of key basics that we were beginning to experience in the formal channel. I also would like to believe that when we are looking at these issues, we must always exercise restraint and be very much willing to locate the root of the problems. Just like government is obligated to pay its own contractors and suppliers, but we need to create an avenue for those payments. If someone has been paid in the local currency, there's got to be some way that they can offload the US dollars, because they also want to replenish the stocks. They want to go back and supply again. But where the value chains, even their value chains or their sources of products are also dollarized, it becomes very problematic. It is the reason why you will see most of them, as soon as the money hits their accounts, they will quickly offload the money in the parallel market. And what does that do? It shifts the exchange rate, it depreciates the local dollar. Why? Because there's excess liquidity that all of a sudden is available, chasing fewer United States dollars. And in any case, the United States dollars, the foreign currency, is a scarce commodity. It is given, it is a fact. So it is why, if you ask me, it was very premature even to reduce the impact of the auction system on the market in or whatever state it was. I believe that the measures are very good, very competent, but they were done at the wrong time. We could have waited until after the election to liberalize the economy, because liberalization comes with some pains. And right now the pain is being absorbed by the ordinary people, by the general populace, the consumers. And no one along the value chain seemed to be willing to absorb that pain.
So do you agree with the sentiments that even, Happiness, I would want you to also answer this. Do you agree with the sentiments that we should move away from the US dollar completely and use our local currency? Because the question has been to dollarize or not to dollarize. And some economists or people in general say, you know what, for an economy to do well, it has to use its local currency. So should we move away from the US dollar completely and use the Zimbabwean dollar? What should we do?
I think we need to continue with the multi-currency. We cannot de-dollarize or dollarize now. Remember, most of the infrastructure development that has taken place in this country has been as a result of the country having its own currency. And with your own currency, it comes with sovereignty. It comes with, you can even dive into a deficit in order to fund some needy areas. And it is the same, solution that as an association we had offered. We did not expect the overall disruptions that took place. We did not need to disrupt this market the much that we did at this particular time. Probably, just like we have done with infrastructure projects, government through the Reserve Bank and the Treasury should have come up with a facility that focused on the basic commodities. Because remember, the outcry has always been on the basic commodities. It is not on the luxurious. On the luxuries. It is on the basic commodities. So what we simply needed was to identify the sector players in the manufacturing sector that produce basic commodities, sector players in the distribution channel that sell the basic commodities, come up with a fund, a facility accessible by those players at concessional rates, and also allow them to pay over a relatively longer period of time. And then we produce as much basic commodities as possible. And the problems are on bread, meal, sugar,
the problems
cooking
are
oil.
indeed on the basic commodities. To dollarize or not dollarize?
Well, it's a bit late for that conversation.
Is it?
Based on where we are now. So you cannot de-dollarize now. While we do need our currency, there isn't a lot of confidence. So if we were to check, since its introduction in 2019, since its reintroduction, we've had 3 cycles of inflation. So if you're going to say we're going to de-dollarize, we're going to remove the US dollar, people are not as confident anymore in that the Zim dollar will remain a store of value, and at the moment that function is not there. If you are to dollarize, it's also problematic because this economy, based on, I didn't think I would say it, but I have to say it, sanctions, obviously. Sanctions, and because we are not in favor with the multilateral institutions, we do not have access to credit lines, cheap credit lines to be able to fund infrastructure projects. We do not have enough correspondent banking relationships to be able to even import the US dollars in the economy. So this economy cannot support dollarization. It becomes uncompetitive. Exports become especially manufacturing exports are very uncompetitive because they are priced higher than other regional countries. So we are in a bind, really. What we could do right now is to reset and then start again. By resetting, it means that we then say for the next 3 months, we use the US dollar, and then we have certain optics. By optics, that's like more of your propaganda, in order for you to gain confidence on your local currency, then reintroduce it again. But where we are now, whichever way we take, people do not have confidence in the Zim dollar anymore.
Okay. You're watching Inside Out on ZBC TV. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking into the current economic situation, what it means, and probably looking at the causes and try and find possible solutions to the situation that we're in now. Earlier on in the week, the President, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, spoke on the current economic situation and the raising of prices and the instability of the exchange rate. And this is what he had to say.
It all began with an observation of a minute of silence in honor of the departed veterans of the liberation struggle, including national hero Comrade Ibrahim Kabasa. Antics or machinations of those who want to effect a regime change in Zimbabwe are now well known, as they have been played over and over. And the president and first secretary of the ruling party, ZANU-PF, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, informed the Politburo members that on the date he made the proclamation, this triggered the madness you see with the price hikes.
The wanton increase in prices of basic commodities. Asivakanyangira yakavona. They will never succeed, and the perpetrators are being brought to book. Just upon my announcement, the proclamation of the general elections, 2 days later, we were under attack. In spite of these attacks, we will continue to advance sustainable socio-economic development and empowerment to lift many of our people out of poverty and into prosperity. I want to commend the Commissariat Department, the Herbert Chitepo School of Ideology, as well as all the party staff for organizing the national ideology.
The president there, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, speaking at a recently held Politburo meeting, and among part of the things that he spoke of the price increases in the country, and in his words, he said 2 days after proclamation of the election date, there was this price madness. And of course, he mentioned that people ought to be punished. And this is what Dr. Mavaza spoke on earlier on, the revoking of business licenses and things like that. Does that work?
Yeah, like I indicated earlier, we need to remain resilient, ensure that we also exercise a lot of restraint, and not cause further speculation on the market. What we have is a situation that requires both business and government to work together and come up with immediate solutions that will alleviate the challenges that the workforce is facing, the ordinary people on the streets are facing, which is number one, consistent, reliable supply of key basic commodities and affordability. The depreciation of the local dollar has been happening over the course of the year, and it just accelerated beginning, I think, last month, and it is the situation where we basically need to look at the result of certain actions that we may take. If we are going to withdraw licenses for the majority of business, or if we are going to accelerate the arrests, what it may cause is further shortages. Right now, we are battling with the black market for foreign currency after the introduction of the auction market. We don't want to start battling with the black market for goods and services. So we want to make sure that in our approach, we simply make goods and services, basic goods, available and affordable. And how do we do that? We need a basic commodity supply and pricing, funding that we can set up, which we can identify the key players. We've got the millers, we've got the manufacturers, we've got the retail and distribution chain, and then we power the production. Right now, we are happy that the electricity supply has improved significantly, which has also been contributing to more challenges on the economy, and its improvement is very key because power and energy is very important in sustainability of rather in viability of industry and commerce. So what we need now is a more zoned approach and identify the key basics. Now, of course, some of them are coming from across the borders, but locally, we need to have more and more of those products coming out of the local market. And remember, we're speaking about 63% capacity utilization, and 80% of the basic commodities have been coming from the local industry, which is progress. And unfortunately, we may lose focus by simply the pricing situation obtaining in the country. But this economy really has been doing so well. Across all facets of the economy, look at tourism, manufacturing, the mining sector, the manufacturing sector, etc. The economy has been doing very well. So we should not lose a lot of focus from that. We simply
I
need...
hear what you're saying now, that the economy has been doing well. We should not lose focus. And the question of punishing retailers who are out of line has the possibility of creating for us a bigger problem in the form of shortages of basic goods and commodities. So what do we do now that we find ourselves in this situation? Another question that I may have for you is, on the black market, who drives the black market?
So I'll start with your last one. Black market is, again, forces of demand and supply. There is demand for US dollar at that level because the formal markets are not supplying enough foreign currency. The auction now has been limited. Banks have started to sell, but the numbers are not yet out. And also remember, we are a dual currency system, and therefore you need, for your hair, it's in US dollars. For your basic things, your fuel, that's not catered for on the auction. That's actually not catered for on the willing buyer, willing seller. Those are for import, foreign payments.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you want your US dollars? We need to enable at least people to get access to banks so that they can also get US dollars or buy on the auction for ordinary use. But that's actually very impossible because of the restrictions in the economy. Okay. So forces of market, of demand and supply will then control the black market.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may come in on that. What creates the black market? It is the perception on the price of any particular commodity. If someone feels that the price of my foreign currency on the market that is available, the formal market, is not right, they will not sell their foreign currency on that market. So they can only sell until the price is right. It is the reason why you saw even government moving in to create the willing buyer, willing seller, and to buttress the interbank market and the auction market. But it is that, and also demand. If demand for a particular commodity outweighs supply, that creates a situation. There has been huge growing demand for foreign currency because the economy is growing. So if the economy is growing, it is a good sign. It is a good problem that the demand of for foreign currency is growing because the economy has got huge demand for foreign currency. Unfortunately, we had a scenario where the demand is not only for the productive sector to procure raw materials, etc. It is also for transactional purposes because of the lack of confidence on the local currency. The economic agencies, the ordinary people on the streets, if you send some Zim dollar on their mobile wallets, they will quickly go to the black market and convert it into the US dollar. So that is a market that is now determining which currency is dominant over the other. Just like when we started using the South African rand at the beginning of the multi-currency system in 2009, no one came and said stop using the South African rand. It just disappeared because people lost confidence in it. The preference, once there is a US dollar in the basket, the preference is always on the US dollar. So I must say there is over-dependence on the US dollar, which is even scarce, which we don't print.
All right. Mr. Denford Mutashu says there is over-dependence on the United States dollars. Sentiments that he's airing on Inside Out today as we look into the economic situation of the country. Let's hear again from Dr. Mavaza, who is in the United Kingdom.
Zimbabwe is being overwhelmed by very unrealistic price rises, which have actually enveloped the economy and the lives of many Zimbabweans in the past 3-4 months. In most cases, if we look at this thing carefully, price hikes are caused by those who are the producers of the basic commodities, and they take advantage of the situation and raise prices to an extent which would force the consumer to pay more to get things which are not even worth that more. Most of these reasons is caused because we are coming towards elections. There are forces which we can call third forces, the third hand, which we do not see but we know, which is behind the price hikes. Most of these shops you see rising their prices are responding to the wishes of those who are looking forward to change the government come August 23.
On the price hikes, the conversation that we're having here today. And recently, as a country, we just harvested most of our traditional grains and we recorded a bumper harvest. We're in a good place as a country in terms of traditional grains. And if we have traditional grains in abundance, it means we're in a good place, aren't we? So then why are we in this situation where we have an increase in the price of bread, for the benefit of the lay person at home? Because in ndikangonzwa kuti nyika ine wheat yakawanda, nyika ine chibage chakawanda, ndikutotarisira just as an ordinary person kuti maprice acho pamwe achadzika because zvawandisa. So why basic commodities isu takakohwa zvakanakisa?
So not necessarily in those version of events. Yes, we did have a good grain harvest. We had a record wheat harvest. But our local currency is depreciating. I mean, those products are available in the informal market because manufacturers or suppliers prefer to go to the informal market because they pay in hard currency. That's cash. Instead of going to sell to OK or Pick and Pay, they operate on a 60-day cycle, if I'm not wrong. They only pay the supplier after 2 months or 30 days. So it's what the manufacturers prefer now. But if you go to the informal markets, you will find all those products there, if not more actually. But the supermarkets, because of the payment terms, I think we saw yesterday a statement from the grain millers saying that they now need cash up front. Because also of the rapid depreciation of the local currency, you do need cash up front because you cannot plan and you cannot forward price because FIU says they're going to punish you. So it's really not a case about where are those things going. They're there in the informal market. I mean, go to the tuck shops now. You get your 10 kg packet of fufu and then,
In US dollars.
Yeah.
Mr. Mutashu, Do your members care for the consumers, retailers in question, those who actually maybe get these things straight from the Grain Marketing Board and the relevant parastatals who are in charge? Do your members care for the consumers, or for them is just a matter of business?
Yeah, we do care. But I also wanted to touch on the point that she has just mentioned. Tikazvitarisa GMB kana painotengesa chibage negorosi kumamilas vanoda ma-US dollar kune rumwe rutivi, chimwe votengesa nezim dollar. Saka US dollar ivo kuti vatengesegwe chibage ichocho negorosi iroro nemafamasi vari kuvabhadharawo imwe mari vanovabhadhara nema-US dollar, imwe vanobhadhara nezim dollar. Saka i-value chain zviri kubvira kumunda. Kuti mufama adzokere kumunda anofanira kutobhadharwawo nema-US dollar nekuti anoda kunotenga mbeu, anoda kutenga mushonga, anoda kutenga zvakasiyana siyana nedhiziri rekuisa mutrakta nezvimwe zvose. Saka anoda mayusa nekuti hakuna kwaanogona kuenda achinotenga dhiziri asingashandise ma-US. Saka nhau ye-dollarization yatiri kutaura iri kubvira kumunda chaiko kusvika tazosvika kuchitoro. Saka mamilasi vakange vapuwa gorosi nechibage nemayusa vanofana kuzocapture mayusa ayaya kana vakudzimikira mutengo wezvavanotengesa kusvikira vasvika kune wechitoro. Saka kazhinji kacho tine dambudziko rekuti tinogona kuzongononangana nechitoro kutozononangana nesherefu toti yowe mitengo yakwira sei, hatichanzveri kuona kuti kumashure kwatiri kubva uko zviri kubva kupi.
It's unfortunate that we have run out of time. What is the way forward as we conclude the program?
So just generally, I think the measures that were recently announced by government and by the central bank do work in that they tighten liquidity in the economy. Again, the problem is liquidity, and I've said it from the start. I will conclude with that. Okay. It's excess Zim dollar liquidity, and we hope that this is tightened further so that we stem the depreciation and then we bring down inflation.
Denford?
I think right now we need to provide a facility that will ensure that basic commodities are available and affordable, number one. Number two, we also need to look at the income levels, because when prices have just shot up and there is a huge gap created between prices and salaries and wages, it also is an area that we need now to focus on and say, can we cushion our employees while we are waiting to see the results of the measures that have just been implemented? Yes, they will bring positive results, but during this course, what do we do to labor? What do we do to the ordinary people on the streets? I think those are very fundamental. And when you've got measures, you must always look at the people and ask yourself, what do the people see? What do the people feel? And what is the direct impact of those measures on the ordinary people on the streets?
Inside Out on ZBC TV. Thank you for having joined us today. We were looking into the current economic situation, what is causing it, and possibly looking at the way forward. And helping us with that conversation was Happiness Zengeni, who is a business analyst, as well as Mr. Denford Mutashu from the Confederation of Retailers in Zimbabwe. It has been quite an engaging discussion. I hope the relevant authorities will look into some of the reasons that have been cited by the business experts we have today in the studio for the benefit of the economy. We also had Dr. Mavaza, who joined us from the United Kingdom, and he shared with us a thought or two on what we've been talking about today. Until we meet again, hopefully next week, I must thank you so much for having joined us, and I hope that you will be able to join us again next week, maybe when we talk about something different and the economy would have recovered. Many thanks to Susan Masona on the sign language desk. Until we meet again, pleasant viewing.